Welcome to the Astronaut Arcade Podcast, where your space hosts, Andromeda, Cowboy, Ranger, and Native Raider, share stories, tips, and the latest information on anything video game related. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive today into Marvel Rivals and the class setup that they have going on with hero shooters. Now, without further ado, let's begin the countdown to launch. Welcome back to another episode with us here at the Astronaut Arcade. We have two guests today to help me out. We do not have any other hosts. Cowboy had some things going on and said, hey, I'm not going to make it this week. And Native is using today for Family Day. So he loves his family. If you guys want to give him shit for it, go for it. It's up to you. But
man, people who love their families are the worst.
But we do have, you guys have all met him. Beef is back in the chair talking to us today.
Hi, how are you?
Somebody over from, I don't actually know the name of y'all's podcast. Surprisingly.
Just some gamers.
Just some Guardians. Just some Guardians.
Shut up.
JSG.
All right, Slice. We're going to fight.
Yeah, take a slice of that.
Didn't it used to be Just Some Guardians?
It was Just Some Guardians. So Some Guardians. Fudd just gives me a hard time about it whenever I say Just Some Guardians because I always forget. I still call it Just Some Guardians because I forget because we started off as a Destiny podcast, but neither of us play. We also used to have 3 co-hosts. Now we're down to 2. And then I think we had actually brought Gunbait on at one point as well. I don't know if anybody knows Gunbait. Gunbait's a really cool dude. So we've had like a rotating door. Fudd and I have been the constants, and mostly Fudd because he's like, hey, I forgot to cancel that this year. Do you just want to keep doing it? It's like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Is that really how that came about, that you guys came back on?
Oh, yeah. No, so it had been a while since I had been on because I just had some stuff, life stuff. And then he texted me and he was like, hey, man, so I forgot to cancel our subscription to Podbean or whatever. So do you just want to keep doing Just Some Gamers? And I was like, yeah, man. I mean, I'd love just shooting the breeze with you whenever we get the chance. And then we did it for like 2 episodes. And then I got sick. And so I wasn't able to do it for a long time. And then Fudd had the same kind of thing come up. And then he just keeps forgetting to cancel it. And so now we've been on a consistent road enough to where this year he didn't give me the text that said, hey, I forgot to cancel it. Do you still want to do this?
It was more just, hey, we're doing this.
Yeah, I think this last time, because we hadn't recorded the show in a couple of years. And so he had texted me. And I had been thinking about it anyway, because I'm writing a book. And I was like, that's part of it when you get published is like you have to have some kind of social media presence. And I was like, that would be a good way to do that thing because I'm not very good with social media. So I was thinking about it anyway, and he texted me and he was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting Just Some Gamers up again. And I was like, yes, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. So
that's happy to hear though that you guys actually stuck around because So, out of curiosity, who was your other co-host? Because I've told you before, I'm not going too far back in the archives because your audio gets pretty rough when you go back.
Oh yeah, no, it gets real bad. Mostly mine, right? Fudd started streaming. So we started the podcast, I think, either just before or right as Fudd started streaming. So he's been streaming for a while.
Yeah, like 7-8 years, something like that.
And that's about how long we've been doing. In fact, we've been doing Just Some Gamers. Well, it was Just Some Guardians since before then. Because Lindsay and I have been married 8 years. And we were doing the podcast before Lindsay and I got married. Or around about the same time. I kind of forget. Anyway, point being that, the audio is really rough. It was Nick, one of our really good friends, and Sandbag Bob, as he is otherwise known, who is still kind of around sometimes. But he's just a really good dude. And it was the same where he kind of had some life stuff come up and then had to step away for a while. So, and then
Yeah.
Fudd and I have enjoyed and been able to make the time enough to be like, hey, yeah, let's do a podcast. We can do that. We don't put a lot of effort into it though. It is very like you guys sent me show notes. There are no show notes. Occasionally, usually what happens is this. One of us will send an idea of the topic to each other on the on our little channel that we have. The other one will not read it until like the day of, when we will then send a text message or a private DM and go, hey, did you have a chance to look at this? And they'll go, no, but that sounds like a perfectly good topic to me. So that's usually what it looks like. Sometimes there's warning on whether there's guests. Sometimes there's a warning on whether there's going to be a guest or not, and sometimes it's just like, hey, by the way, this person's going to be guesting. I'm like, oh, hey, cool. We're decent at improv, so it works out pretty well.
Well, there you go, guys. That is the long-winded intro for Jackal, aka Russ, as he is more commonly known, Fudd's co-host and founding member of the JSG. So yeah, how are you guys doing?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. How are you guys doing this week?
I'm good. Well, I'm good right now. This past week has been a shit show for me. I'm on the tail end of a cold, so you're gonna hear some coughing here and there. But this last week for the better part was a wash. Monday, my boy had a snow day, and I felt like shit, so I just stayed home, and obviously stayed home with him because he had a snow day. Tuesday, he had a 2-hour delay, so I went into work late, still feeling like shit. Toughed it out through Tuesday. Everybody was telling me just go the hell home. I went back Wednesday, worked through Wednesday, was miserable. Took Thursday off, took Friday off. Saturday still felt like shit. I did do that it was Thursday we did JSG, right? That's when you guys do it?
Yes.
I want to throw this out there that Thursday after JSG, we convinced Beef to come and play Rivals with us. And he was like, oh, I got to go to work in the morning. Blah, 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 blah. And then he left because he said he was going to go to work in the morning, and he called off anyway.
Yep.
So really, you didn't even need to leave. And this is your fault. I'm just saying.
So I'm going to need you to listen here, Russ, just for a quick minute.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So I had planned on going to work, right? Well, I did this thing called put my phone on complete silent, which is apparently a thing to where your alarms won't even go off.
Yeah.
So I woke up 15 minutes before I was supposed to be at work and realized I'm supposed to be at fucking work. So I immediately texted my boss when I woke up and said, I'm still not feeling well, and I couldn't quite get up on time. So I'm sorry for the late text, but I'm not going to be in today. Because for whatever reason, which I assume it's pretty much every industry, if you're going to be late for work, you're better off just taking a PTO day because you'll get less shit for it.
Yep.
Which is kind of dumb if you ask me. But like if I would have said, oh, I'm going to be late because I overslept, I would have probably gotten written up when I got to work. Mm-hmm. But because I have PTO time and I put in PTO day, which granted, I did feel like shit. And today I'm still not 100%, but I'm much better than I was. And I'm going to make it a point to make sure my volume is on. So that way I actually get up tomorrow morning. But yeah, so I did have full intention to go to work Friday. And then I overslept. And I'm glad I stayed home anyway. Because, yeah, this cold's been kicking my ass. Aside from the cold, yeah, my week, I did JSG with you guys. That was a blast. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, nothing really exciting at all. I did get a new microphone, and I finally took my PC to Micro Center. That was an adventure. Being that Micro Center is an hour and a half away from me, which, I'm not one to shy away from long drives. It doesn't bother me. I have a little beater car for a reason. But Micro Center's website specifically says if you've purchased the device there, which I purchased all of my stuff there, that if you bring it in at least 4 hours prior to closing, they guarantee diagnostic results same day. That's all I wanted, was at least a diagnostic answer to figure out what the hell is wrong with my PC. And as of right now, it seems like it's okay, but I've had days where my PC works perfectly fine before. So I can't say anything yet. If I go a full week of zero issues, then I'll be confident they fixed it. But needless to say, I dropped it off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. They closed at 9 p.m. So we fiddle fucked around the area. Being that it was an hour and a half away, I told them, I was like, listen, you guys got till like 6 or 7 o'clock. If you don't have an answer by then, just text me and then I'll make my way home. If not, I'm going to still be in the area and I can be here. Like I can come pick it up at 9 o'clock when you close. That's still easier than me having to come back tomorrow. Well, I don't remember exactly what time it was, but they basically said, yeah, no, it ain't happening today. We're short staffed. We can't do it. I'm like, oh, that's funny because your website says you can. But that's just me being petty. So
who, you?
Either way,
No,
never. So I ended up not throwing as much of a shit fit as I had planned. It's to be determined on if it actually is fixed. Well, my initial plan driving down there today, because when I left the house to drive back down there, we still had not gotten an answer on whether or not they even diagnosed it yet. So my whole thought process going down there was, I'm going to walk in the door and I'm going to throw a shit fit that you didn't even look in my computer yet. I want my $50 back because it's only a $50 diag fee. Which is fine. I'm okay with that. That's fair. I'm paying for a service. That's fair. As long as I get the damn service. So, like, if I would have gotten there and they would have said, oh, we didn't get a chance to diagnose it yet, I'll be like, well, that sucks. I'm taking my computer and I want my $50 back because I ain't got time the rest of this week to make it down here. So, luckily, they at least gave me a fix. They told me it's got a 30-day guarantee on it. So, if within 30 days I have the issue again, I can take it back. They'll diagnose it again for free and figure out what's going on. So, aside from that, I did also pick up a new microphone while I was down there. I'm sure anyone who's heard me on the podcast before can tell I sound hopefully better. So I did grab that. Still fiddling with the settings, but that's been my week. How's your week been, Ranger? Let you talk for a minute. It is your podcast.
It's not my podcast. I am one of the
Sorry,
co-hosts
it's
of
not
the
mine.
podcast.
It's not mine. Let me put it that way.
So it was actually a pretty good week because I ended up, for the first time in I don't know how long, having 4 days off in a row.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
For your knowledge, Russ, I work 2 jobs. So I work 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So
That sounds awful. Like, that sounds like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I also have 2 podcasts that I do, and I game whenever I can, and I give my girlfriend Monday and Wednesday off of being mom, so she can have time to be herself.
Yeah.
So I got a full plate.
That is a very full plate. The rest of the stuff, I'm like, oh no, that's nice. Working 2 jobs, 10 to 12 hours a day for 6 days a week, that is not my idea of fun for sure.
Yeah. But and I've done that for about a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
So about a year and a half of pretty much only 1 day off at a time. So, this week getting 4 days off in a row.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Crazy experience to be able to sit here and like go to bed at 1 a.m. and be like, I could stay up because I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Right, yeah. I was up until 6 this morning because I was like, I don't have anything tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and like for me, most of the time, if I get 2 days off put together, I will still go to bed at my regular time because it's like, well, no, I don't have to work tomorrow, but I do have to stay on a schedule so I can get up the next day.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was nice having 4 days off, and I didn't have to take 4 days off, but I took the opportunity to take 4 days off. So we had some ice come in on Thursday.
Oh yeah, you're in Texas. Yeah, I forgot.
So Thursday, one of my jobs was closed, and I only work there on Thursdays, so I didn't have to work Thursday. Yeah. Friday, that same job was closed, and we were still iced all over the place. So I called my other job and was like, "Hey, there's ice on the roads. I'm not coming in." Well, at that point, I only have to work Saturday, and then I'm off Sunday. So why not just call out, use a PTO day on Saturday?
I mean,
and then have 4 days off in a row.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much been my week. That's pretty much been my week. It's been Monday and Tuesday were rough. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were rough because the cigarettes we got in at Costco was not done correctly when it was shipped to us.
Oof.
So there was over, I think, close to 2,000 cases that was supposed to come in.
Dang.
Like between 1,500 and 2,000 cases.
Yeah.
Which normally in a whole week we'll get 1,200, and that's getting 2 shipments in.
Wow.
So one shipment was significantly more than our normal week. Well,
Right.
it came in too tall. So like I'm 5'8", me standing flat foot on the floor with my hands straight up, my
No.
fingertips were not even touching the bottom of the top
Yeah.
layer. So even beef being what, 6'2"?
Wow, good memory. Yeah.
Yeah. Beef being 6'2" would still have to like stretch and stand up like tall, like no
Right.
slouching, possibly a little bit of toe action to pull the top rack off.
Yeah.
So like it was not good for that. And then it was all over the floor, like not all over the floor, but like it was not in the right spots. It was
Right.
nothing was next to where it needed to be next to.
Sure.
So it was a lot of back and forth. It took us 5 hours to receive it, which
Oof.
normally it takes about 2.
Right.
So it was just a long process Monday, and the longer it takes us to do that Monday, the more of the work gets pushed into Tuesday.
Yep.
Show up on Tuesday, the machine decided it didn't want to show up to work.
Oh,
I spent 2 hours of my shift throughout the entire day fixing the machine.
sure.
So that's more work that's just getting pushed off to the next day, and we're supposed to get another shipment in on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so now we've got stuff from Monday, which is normally done Tuesday, pushed all the way to
Right.
Wednesday. And
Yeah.
we're supposed to be getting another shipment in on Wednesday. So it was
Yeah.
just not fun. Got it all done. Thankfully, the machine ended up working most of Wednesday. So it all got done, it all got out. But it was very stressful. I did not
Yeah.
have fun.
No, I can't imagine you did. And then you got 4 days off.
And then I got 4
now
days
you
off.
get to
So it
go
was
back
perfect.
to it on Monday and
Yeah.
see everything that they messed up while you were gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the best part.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was complaining a while ago about how I would be off Thursday, and if there's floor freight left on the floor on Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't get touched on Thursday, and I'd come back Friday and have to do all of the freight from Wednesday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was pretty consistent. So
Do you work in a distribution center or something?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. It sounded like it. I used to work as a security guard for a distribution center. And so I'm like, as you're talking about it, I'm like, this sounds an awful lot like what I heard a lot of these
Yeah.
people complaining about.
Yeah. It's the same problem everywhere, and it's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
So what about you, Russ? What you been up to this week?
Oh man, this week, well, so this was my first week back because I had taken 2 weeks off at Christmas.
Mm.
I do that every year, and so,
Must be nice.
I look. I work at I'm a
Remote
software
work problems.
I'm a software consultant. I get 4 weeks off a year, and I use every bit of that PTO throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Thank God.
So I came back on Monday, and I was anticipating quite a lot of work having piled up because I get my emails and stuff like that. And I pay attention to them enough to know what all I'm getting into when I come back to work on Monday. But it was surprisingly, I had finished everything out before I left. And it's all project work, right? So unless there's something new that comes up, everything is pretty much done. And then of course that was Thursday was when things started to trickle in to go, hey, this is broken now. And it's like, oh no, okay. But then it was like everybody's stuff was like done on Thursday and it all needed fixing. And I'm like, okay. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this coming week, I'm going to Atlanta I've got to go into the office for some training that they're giving us. And, so I'm like, ooh, everything broke on Thursday and Friday. And so I didn't have time to get to all of it by the time I got done on Friday. So I'm like, I gotta try to find time on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to try to put some of this stuff in while I'm also trying to get this training on budget. So
Yeah. Do you by chance are you salary?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no. Yes, I am salary. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I
All you had to
am
say was yes.
salary. I do have billable hours, but those billable
Okay.
hours go towards the client. That's the
Okay.
way it works.
So
But I get paid the same regardless.
the reason I was curious about that is because if you have projects that you need to fix and you're traveling, so like for me, whenever I've worked a
Mhm.
job that I've traveled, if I can do my work on a computer, I'll do at least like I'll finish whatever I'm doing that day. So for you, it's training, right?
Mhm.
And when I get back to the hotel, I'll be like, it's 5:00. I'll go ahead and I'll spend 2 hours fixing things before I relax for the night.
Yeah.
So that's just what I've done. But some people don't like to
Yes.
do that.
That is something I can do. However, that would mean, because I'm salary, I do not get paid for those hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I will say this, because they pay me very, very well, and they treat me very, very well. So a lot of times, because of the way project work goes, there are some weeks where my billable hours are like this week up until Thursday or Friday, and even then, my total billable hours was like 16 hours for this week, which means that for the other 24, I didn't really have anything to do.
So you got paid for 24 hours of not really.
So I got paid. I mean, like, I sit here and I do trainings and I do stuff like that. But
Rivals.
depends. I mean, I'm not saying what kind of training I do. I just do training. No,
he's in the practice range at Rivals.
I try to make sure they're getting their money's worth. So I am here on my computer. I may also be doing other stuff at the same time. And there may be other stuff going on, but yeah, so I had like 24 hours where I really didn't have to do much of anything, which was fantastic. So my week has been really good.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that, Russ. I can't relate personally because I think I've told you before I'm a mechanic. I know I've said it on here before.
Yeah.
So like for me, I have to be there and doing something to make money. Because like the way I get paid for what I do, not how long I'm there. Is a very short version of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna like indulge in that because I've said it on here before. But my old roommate that I used to live with back before I got with my wife, we bought a house, yada yada. He currently does I don't know what his job title is, but I know he works remotely, makes a stupid amount of money. And works for like, I think he said his average actual amount of work he completes in a week is like 8 hours. Like it's ridiculous. Now he doesn't, I want to say it's a software engineer, but it's not. He said he does something to do with like the cyber security portion of it or something. I don't know.
I assume that he probably does something along the lines of consulting, because
whatever he does, he's good at it.
Consulting it very much is that kind of work. Right, where there are weeks like this where I have like 24 hours of time where it's like you're trying to find something to fill it so that the company is getting what they need out of you, and answering emails. And having said that, I have meetings, and I mean sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long that I need to be on. I guess Tuesday I was on like an all day meeting where it was a bridge where I was helping them with stuff, but. And, but then you compare that, and then there are weeks where I'm working like 60, 80, 100 hours.
Yeah.
Usually not that much, but like 60. I mean, I usually pull in a good 60-hour work week sometimes. And that's usually when it's crunch time on a project and everything's going wrong, and you're like, I don't know. And I had some, last year, I had like a couple of months that were like that, where I was spinning maybe, I think I had 5 or 6 projects that I was all doing at one time. And so it was a couple of months of like 60-hour work weeks trying to make sure that everything was getting done in an appropriate time frame. So, it's kind of the way it works with consulting, where, you may have an 8-hour work week where it's like, that's what it is. And typically the company is fine with that, because then when you do have those 60-hour work weeks that are for a couple of months, they're like, yeah, remember when a couple of months ago you didn't really have anything to do and you're maybe billing for 4 or 5 hours? This is why we're okay with you doing that.
Yeah, buckle up.
Yeah, I wish I could get a remote job like that. That'd be so much better than what I do now. I'm sure you probably, I'm not going to ask because that's personal and this is a podcast, so we're not putting that out there. I would have guessed you probably make more than I do at both of my jobs put together.
I make 6 figures. Yes,
absolutely.
So I get a 3% bump every year. I don't mind telling you how much I make. I make Right now I'm making 106 and some change. And then I get a $10,600 bonus based on meeting our requirements. And then I'm actually about to get a promotion, so it'll be another $7,000 to $10,000 increase.
Yeah. Well,
my God.
So in my regular 55-hour work weeks that I do all the time, I make less than $60,000 a year for both my jobs. For both.
Whoa, that's great. I mean, I hope that doesn't sound condescending.
No, it's not. It's not.
That seems like you're being underpaid, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is for the type of work I do, right? I do warehouse work.
Yeah,
and that's pretty standard, an underpaid field, as far as like
unless you're at the top of the food chain.
Yeah. So like, and I had this argument with my mother a month or two ago, or not. Actually, it was closer to a year ago now. Geez, time flies. When the dock workers were on strike saying we need to be paid more. And she was like, I can't believe that they're being, they already get paid this much and they're asking for $20 more an hour. And so I was like, well, when COVID hit, they get to take a break. It's like, well, no, then they're integral to our infrastructure. Why should we not pay them what they want to get paid? And then I told her, like, it's the same thing for me working at Costco. We don't get breaks when things like that happen. Yeah. We get mandated, wear a mask, make sure you're washing your hands constantly. Yeah. Production's going to slow down because you're taking extra precautions, but production still has to happen.
Right.
So it's the same thing. It's notoriously an underpaid field that does not get breaks for disasters and does not get breaks for pandemics.
Right.
Proven in the last few years.
Yeah.
Now, so, sidebar that I'm going to throw in there. Russ may be doing okay, but I'm going to safely assume you have a significant amount of student loan debt, or at least did at some point in time. No, you didn't go to school?
I have 0 student loan debt.
Did you go to school or no?
No, I did. So what I did was I did not end up getting my degree until later. I didn't go when I turned 18. I did some things. Essentially, I went through a program that my church does. And so what they do is, well, I'm LDS, right? I don't know if you guys know anything about that. I'm Mormon, right? And so what they do is, so you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, they have a couple of schools, BYU, Idaho, schools that they own and that they run. Those schools are already cheaper than pretty much every other college. If you get an endorsement from an ecclesiastical leader, and this is actually available to anybody if they can get that endorsement, it's I think it's only like 60% of what you would typically pay for college. I ended up, because what I did is I found out that they had a program where if I went through, it was an online program. If I went through that online program, then what I could do is they chop off like another 30%. So for 12 credit hours, I'm paying like $600-$700.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. Now, and I mean, this was quite a few years ago. So
even still,
yeah. And
I guess you could say thank God for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
come on, smirk. Come on.
Oh, no, well, I mean, it's pretty great, right? That it was an opportunity that was afforded to me because, I mean, it's not like I could get grants or anything. Now, I did have around I think it was actually like $22,000 that I paid off within a couple of years, because what I did is I had finished school, but then I was in what had happened was I was actually in this process of I had just lost my job. Me and my wife had just gotten married, and there were no jobs readily available because all my experience was in electronic medical records. Because I had done that for about 10 years. And so I was working as a courier. So I was just picking up like lab specimens and then dropping them off. And it sucked. and I hated it because it was 10 to 12-hour days. You're constantly in traffic. I listened to a lot of books, which was probably the best thing about that, because I would just have books on all the time. But I never saw my wife that I had just recently married, because I would leave before she got up in the morning. I would get home at like 9 o'clock, and then I would typically fall asleep on the couch. So I'd leave at like 7. I'd get home at like 9. And so that really sucked, and I didn't want to do that. So I did a coding boot camp, because they had a guarantee where if you don't get a job within like 6 months, then they give you your full tuition back and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty good. And they help you get resumes, they do fairs and things like that. So I went to that. And it was around about the time that I was still doing my schooling too. So I hadn't quite gotten my degree yet, but this was a way to kind of accelerate and get that experience on my resume. And so then that catapulted me. I ended up working for Quest for a little bit, and then I did a lot of contract work. Yep, I did a lot of contract work. I worked for a hospital system out of Atlanta called Northside. And then I ended up, it was right after COVID, because the contract with Northside was starting to come up, which I don't know if you guys have ever done contract work, but it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
And I knew the contract was starting to end, and I knew they probably weren't going to keep us for very long because, we had like the service now, right? So we would get tickets, and then we would handle that. And I noticed like there were days where I'd get like 1 or 2, and I was like, I know they just renewed the contract for like another 6 months, but I know at the end of that's going to disappear very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I immediately started looking for jobs, and I had to. It was during that, where everybody had left their job for COVID, right? You had they call it the Great Resignation, and it hit software really, really hard for whatever reason. Doesn't make any sense to me because most of the jobs are remote anyway. And so it was just that dearth of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so people were hungry to hire. And a recruiter got a hold of me, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of a company called Power Plan?" And I was like, "Nope." He goes, "Do you have any experience with accounting?" And I go, "Nope." And he goes, "Do you have experience with implementing software?" And I said, "I do have experience with that." And so they brought me on, and I've been working there now for 3 years, and it's the best job I've ever had. But no, I didn't have any school debt, specifically because I had done that and had gotten my schooling for very, very cheap. And then I paid off my loan that I had gotten for the coding boot camp very, very quickly. Yeah. We just paid that off a couple of years ago because I went from making $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and I was like, that is all going towards our debt.
Yeah.
And so last year or the year before, we paid all that off.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's honestly like a great show that sometimes good things do happen. And it happens like,
yeah,
you just gotta be in the right place, put yourself in the right position, and follow through with it.
Well, and it was being prepared for those opportunities to come along, because I knew, I was like, okay, this is going to round me out, right? Because I already have experience with software. If I can round myself out a little bit so that I'm not quite niche, then I can probably pretty easily get a job. And it ended up working out that way. And now, because of that, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She's able to be with our 2-year-old all the time. And that's been, but that just recently happened. We just moved down to San Antonio. We rented a house. And so she came home from her job in April. So it's almost been about a year. Yeah.
So sort of kind of to break topic, because I want to get into the main topic here in a second, but also I'm noticing something in your background. Are those card boxes behind you like for Magic or something?
Yes. Yeah. So I am a big nerd. I noticed you have a D&D channel in here. So D&D, and then my wife for Christmas, she got me a binder because I had my Magic cards have started to get a little scattered because it's Magic. And so she was like, now you can organize your cards. And I'm like, I don't really want to. Like, that's great. Thank you for that. But there's a reason that I stopped doing it because, and this was also at the time, like, I was putting everything into an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So that I could keep track of what I had so that when I was doing deck building, now I use an app, not to do an ad or anything. It is called, but it's a really, really good app, Mana Box.
I've used that before. Yeah.
And so I can put all my cards in there. So she recently organized and put all my Magic cards alphabetically, which is what I wanted, in order and in binders so that they are easily displayed.
By color or by mana cost?
I didn't do either of those. I wanted, because this is specifically so that if I'm building a deck, I can go and find it easily and pull it out.
Okay.
So it is from A to Z, which I know that's not the way most people do it. In fact, one of my friends of mine was like, that's heresy. You're doing it wrong. I just organized them. I just organized them alphabetically, so they're not by color, they're not anything like that, because I can use Mana Box and go, do I have this card? Yes, I have this card. Great. Now I can find it easily because it's all in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Because I don't know enough. I don't have cards memorized, so I don't know mana cost and color and stuff like that.
So for the listeners, Russ, can you do us a favor and read through every single card you have?
No, he can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he can't.
He would. Russ
he would.
has the mental capacity that he would sit here for the next 12 hours and read that entire binder.
I will tell you my single most expensive card that I have. Would that suffice?
Okay. That is fine. Yes.
That works.
The single most expensive card that I have is Edgar Markov. And I got Edgar Markov in the Commander set that he came in for $50.
And the card right now is like $300 or $400.
No, it dropped a lot because they're talking about reprinting him.
Oh.
So they're reprinting him outside of that because the only place you could get him was that Commander deck. So they're talking about reprinting him. So it was like $300, especially when you had not Strixhaven. Maybe it was Strixhaven. Anyway, all the vampires come out.
Yeah.
But it's dropped. It's still like 80, but yeah.
Yeah, my Pride card, which I've stopped playing. I'm trying to get rid of my collection at this point, but
really?
Yeah, but I don't know if I still have it. I don't know if I still have it somewhere, but I had bought the Atraxa deck.
Oh yeah, Atraxa. Mm-hmm.
And so they haven't talked about reprinting that card, as far as I'm aware. So she is still like extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So
I really enjoy Magic. My joy from playing Magic comes with playing with my group of friends who are very, very into it. I am that guy who buys a pre-con and goes, "Let's play."
Yeah.
And that's my level of competitiveness. Occasionally I'll build the deck. I have a Nicol Bolas deck that's real nasty. It's a stacks deck that just shuts everybody down and makes it miserable to play. And usually people just go, I concede, I'm out. You win, I'm done. Because they can't play anything. Because the whole point of the deck is so it has it has noetic scales.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only have as many cards on the battlefield as you have cards in hand. I have several cards that makes it to where I have no maximum hand size. And then I have Nicol Bolas or various other cards that make it to where people have to discard. And then if anybody does have anything on the battlefield, I bounce it to their hand and then swing with Nicol Bolas and make them discard. So the whole point of the deck is to shut the game down to where they can't play anything or do anything. Because as soon as they get a card, then they have to discard that card.
Russ, I love you.
And people hate it. They hate playing against that deck.
I was forbidden within my group from playing mill decks because I was good at it.
Mill decks are rough. Yeah.
Well, it's because I was good at it. So I would in Commander, which mill is hard to play in Commander.
Yeah.
In Commander, I would mill out 2 of the people on the table before I lost.
Oh,
If
dude.
they didn't focus me down.
Right.
So I was good at it.
Yeah.
Because I would do the kind of like burst mill, right?
Mhm.
So I would kind of mind my own business, 2 cards here, 1 card there, 2 cards here, half your deck.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna stack this on top of it. That's your whole deck. Your deck's gone. You're gonna be gone next turn. So I would just do like really big burst. Your deck's gone.
I have I have a couple of friends of mine who have similar decks to that, and it always feels bad when you get milled out and you're like, they go, okay, I passed the turn, and it's your next turn, and you have no cards in your library, and you go,
Yeah.
well, I guess you win. Aren't you proud of yourself?
Well, and then it was funny because like at first they were like, okay, we're not gonna ban it. We're just gonna focus you out of the game every time you pull it out.
Right.
Which, is fine because I would at that point I got a little more aggressive. So I would like half your deck on the first turn, half your deck on the second turn, half your deck on the fourth turn, like just really quick. And then because I knew they were going to just shut me down really fast. I knew they were going to do everything in their power to just turn me off. So I started getting aggressive with it. Well, then they started having shuffling problems because they would mill so many cards that their decks would get out of order when they would go to shuffle them because they never changed order.
Yeah.
So like, you ever have that issue where like your deck shuffle it too much? Essentially because they would shuffle their deck and then I would force them to flip it over. They would go to shuffle it again, but now they've shuffled it consistently too much. So it would cause flow issues. And so they're like, all right, you're just banned from playing this now because even if we beat you, you still mess up the rest of the night. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I mostly play Commander. I never really got into Classic, and most of the reason that I got into it was because of my group of friends, because they're very into it and they've gotten more into it. And I just I'm trying to write a book. I've got D&D. I also like gaming, so I don't have the time commitment to really like spend time. And also, I'm not good at deck building, which is why I love precons. I'm not good at deck building. It's just not something I know enough of the cards to go, okay, this is the theme I want to go for.
My organizational system and my card finding system were very similar. So what I would do is my organizational system is going to make you unhappy, very unhappy. I would do first color, and then after color it would be mana cost.
Right.
After mana cost would be alphabetic, and then after alphabetic it would be set.
See, but I feel like that's actually the way that most people organize their cards. I just didn't want to spend that much time and was like, we're doing it all alphabetical. Because it's bad. I would lose interest so quickly.
I think the first time I went to organize my set, it took me 2 weeks to get the whole thing organized. Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty quick, though.
I did it every day. Like I would go to work, come home, and sit down at my desk for like 6 hours, and then go to sleep.
There are too many things that I enjoy doing to want to spend time doing that. I'm very much one of those people that's like, is this worth my time?
Yeah.
It's kind of like why I don't play mobile games, because it's one of those things where it becomes a time suck and you have to log on. Like, do you ever play Clash of Clans?
No. I also don't play phone games.
It was a big game. It was one that I decently got into, but then at a certain point you had to be on at specific times to do specific stuff, and I was like, no. No, I don't. That does not sound like fun to me.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, Beef, us talking about Magic, this is how it feels to me when you and Cowboy go off about vehicles.
No, this is fine. I'm big in like I've played Magic, but I only dabbled. I was into Yu-Gi-Oh. I still have a whole book bag full of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I just can't relate to Magic.
I think you've told me that you tried Magic, but you couldn't wrap your head around it, so you're like, "No, I'm going back to Yu-Gi-Oh."
I think the reason that I like Magic, and this flows into my deck building, is I like a theme, like Edgar Markov, right? I am playing as Edgar Markov, sending vampires at somebody else. That's why I like Commander, right?
Yeah.
Is because there's some aspects of that role play of this is who I am. And so that's usually when I do build a deck, that's how I build my deck. Like my Nicol Bolas deck, I'm playing as Nicol Bolas, and Nicol Bolas is all about shutting you down and then taking everything that you have.
So you turn it into a role playing aspect almost.
That's what interests me about that aspect of it. The gameplay is fun because I like strategy. I really like long, complex games. Twilight Imperium, one of my favorites. I'm one of those guys. Yeah, so the strategy elements. But as far as like deck building, I want to build something where I can have a theme that makes me feel like I'm that person.
Yeah, I understand.
I like their Warhammer decks. One of my favorites.
Little insider on Russ. Russ has a superhero complex. He needs to be the superhero. If he doesn't feel like the superhero, then he's not going to do that thing. Got to be the hero.
I have less interest in it. Yes.
That's why you like Helldivers, because you feel like you're John Helldiver going in there and just shooting everything and messing them up. And that's why you like segue Marvel Rivals, because Marvel Rivals, you are quite literally a hero.
Yeah.
Going around shooting shit. Like I've noticed, at least when I've played with you. Well, no, you did play Punisher in this last one we played, but you did play Captain America a lot. And Captain America is America's hero.
I like superheroes. I mean, I grew up on comic books. That's one of my favorite things. I love reading. And usually when you're reading, you're in the mind of the hero. The protagonist at the very least. Not always the hero, sometimes the villain. But and so, yeah. I mean, that is, you're right. That's why I love Marvel Rivals. Because I get to be the hero or villain, right? Because Venom is... I guess Venom's an anti-hero, but you get to be that hero, and they've done such a good job of encapsulating that and making them feel like they do in the comics. I mean, to the point to where some of them feel very unfair.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So normally we do a guest interview. We're going to mostly kind of skip over that because I'm pretty sure everybody in our podcast community now intimately knows who Russ is.
Yeah. You're welcome. I'm an open.
So, Russ, would you like to just drop the last four of your social and your mother's maiden name real quick while you're at it?
I would love to. So my last four of my social is...
you cut out, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say that again. The last four of my social is... oh man, geez, I don't know what's happening. It just keeps cutting.
It's okay. We'll just gloss over it. I'll cut that part out.
Yeah.
No big deal. We'll edit it in after the fact. We'll put them in there.
In our housekeeping, we do still have the inter-community tournament coming up in about a week, I believe, the 18th. Yeah, so in about a week. And we currently have 6 people signed up to participate, guys. If you want in, please hit us up in that channel. Tournament teams at the very top of the Discord. For those of you who don't know, I'll go ahead and give you a rundown. We do have the notice in here, but January 18th at about 5 p.m. CST, whatever that is for you guys, we are doing a tournament with Cowboy Dizzy Games. The games that we're going to be playing are all free. Black Ops 6 is free with Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, that one is free. And if you don't have that, we'll figure out something out as far as teamworks go. But Black Ops 6, Overwatch 2, Fortnite, Apex, Valorant, the finals, and Marvel Rivals are all games that are going to be played in this tournament, guys. So if you would like to join, either message myself directly or go into that tournament team chat and hit us up in there. So I do have
tidbit, you don't necessarily have to play all of the games. Bear in mind
that is correct.
They are ideally looking for enough people to generate a team on each individual game. So if you would like to help out in any capacity, even if there's only one of those games that you like, it would still be appreciated.
Yes. Odds are, if my thinking is correct, 6 should be enough for any full team for any of those games, like at maximum. And that's if we do full teams for every game. I believe Marvel Rivals and Black Ops are the only two that have like a cap, like a higher cap on the team, and that cap is 6. So just so you guys know, that is 6 is enough. But if you want to participate or if you want to help out or whatever, just let us know. I do want to ask one question because it's my favorite question from our guest interview, Russ. So, what is your least favorite video game that you will still play, but
Ooh.
every time you pick it up, you think, I should probably go touch some grass instead of playing this game. But you play it anyway.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man, I don't know, man.
So to buy him a minute, I've been thinking about this because I took the cop out back when you actually interviewed me how many episodes ago and never actually gave you a clear answer.
Yeah.
If I had to pick that game currently, it's unfortunate because I don't have Game Pass. I pissed $70 in the wind on this game. It would be Call of Duty. Because I got it. I have played 5 hours of it, and it's Call of Duty. Like, I can hop into a Call of Duty game, and like that was the game I grew up on. I can still hop into Call of Duty and slay. Like, if I get in there, I can do well, even on this one that I have 5 hours in. Like, I've already popped in and had a bunch of pretty good games, like with minimal time on there. But it's just Call of Duty. It's rinse, wash, repeat. Like, yes, a lot of people hyped it up, and sure, the zombies was fun. I played the zombies for like an hour of that 5 hours. It was fun, but it doesn't have that same hit that it did, like, I don't know, what year are we in, 2025? Like a decade ago when I was playing it all the time. It just doesn't have that same hit that it used to. Now, that's probably because I've played, not all of them, but a vast majority of Call of Duties ever since the original Modern Warfare. So, like, it's just, if I'm playing that, I really should just go outside. Like, unless the only caveat to that would be if there was a community event going on that I was a part of. That would be the only caveat where it'd be like, okay, yeah, this is fun. But if I'm sitting here by myself playing Black Ops 6, I need to just go outside.
Yeah, fair.
I think, okay. So this is my favorite game, one of my favorite games, and also one of my least favorite games, all at the same time.
Destiny 2.
No. Okay. I mean, actually, so when I was playing Destiny 2, that actually probably would have been true because I don't typically like shooters. Right. The only reason I played Destiny 2 was because so many other people, like FUD, that I knew were playing Destiny 2. And Destiny 1. I am not a first-person shooter guy. That is not my favorite type of gameplay. And it was one of those things where it was like, it was fun enough. And I liked the lore. Yeah. Currently, right now, is Star Citizen. That is because
I'm telling FUD to listen to this episode as soon as it comes out.
If you realize I said it is one of my favorite games and also one of my least favorite games, because specifically what you said is where every time you play it, you feel like you need to go outside and then touch grass, because there are aspects of this game that are fantastic, just so good, and there's a journey to this game that is incredible. And I mean, like, in its development cycle, right? Because I've been a part of it for like 8 years. FUD's been a part of it for longer than that. And the things that they've added and what they've created is fun and cool, and it's insane when you think about it. But also, it is not even in early release or anything like that. It is in like alpha, and so it is still being worked on and still being developed. And Beef was watching me the other day where I died like 4 times in a row, and so it's there's an aspect of this that's like a survival game, right? Where when you die, your body drops and all the stuff that is on your body drops. However, it is an alpha. So, sometimes you can get back to your body. Most of the time, it's just gone. You've lost all that stuff, and sometimes you spent in-game 60,000 AUEC, right? Which is a lot to like, okay, I'm going to get armor, I'm going to get guns, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this mission. And one of the times that I died, in fact, one of the last times that I died before I was like, I need to go touch grass because I am about to lose it. I'm flying out of the hangar. I fly out of the hangar and my ship blows up. It just blows up, man. It just is gone. It's gone. And my stuff is gone. It's not there. So
It was a skill issue.
I actually had to tell because Fudd was kind of coming in and out, and they were like, so I kept dying, and through various things. Some of them were skill issues. Most of them were bugs, though, and they kept going. Oh, it sounds like a skill issue. Sounds like a skill issue, which was funny at first. then after the 5th time it happened, it stopped being funny very, very quickly. And so I was like, I swear, if you guys say it, I'm gonna lose my shit.
You know what? I'm just gonna get off. Never mind.
Yeah. It was one of those things where if they had said something, I was gonna exit the call. I was gonna exit the game, and I was just not gonna talk to anybody for like a day, because I was infuriated because it kept and it was just stupid stuff that kept killing me. It wasn't a skill thing. It was just the game being dumb. And
so I got to experience, so to give you a little insight on that. So I don't have the game yet. I do actually. I need to get on getting that here soon because I told Fudd I would. Well, I told you as well, Russ, I would. So I'm going to get that here soon. But with that being said, I wasn't in the mood to play, so I was just hanging out watching Fudd and Russ play, and they were both streaming. So I watched Fudd collide with nothing and die. And I still proceeded to say skill issue because he was just in the middle of space and just exploded. And so I proceeded to say that. And it was great because Russ was not it was not quick, his descent into madness. It started with him being patient. He was very patient because this was he made it sound like it was a very short time frame. This was over the course of like an hour because nothing happens quickly in that game. Everything in that game takes like an hour and a half of prep work before you can do anything productive. So this entire window is just him trying to get ready to go do something. And that final straw was when he exploded off of nothing because that's when he was finally done getting ready and leaving the hangar to go do something and then blew up and lost everything. And the best part was Fudd, so Russ didn't have his face cam on, but Fudd had his face cam on. And like Russ said, they've been friends for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So all I did was the second Russ said that about like, if you say skill issue one more time, the second he said that, I switched back to Fudd's POV. Every fiber of his being wanted to say skill issue. I could see it crippling him physically when Russ said, don't say it. And so
I wasn't there, but I can visualize in my mind Fudd looking at his camera, looking at the screen, looking at his camera.
Oh yeah,
looking at his camera.
Every fiber. Dude, he wanted to say it so bad. So I was like real quiet. I was like, so Fudd, if you say it right now, is he being for real? And he's like, 100%. He will leave, he will shut his PC down, and he will be done. So that's why I'm not saying it, because I want to play Star Citizen with him, damn it. And that's the only reason why he didn't say it. I was really close to saying it, but I'm not close enough with Russ to get away with it yet. So I was like, I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, that's probably a good bet.
It was just one of those, because it's like, you know, you're just having fun with your friends. And then like you said, it's that descent into madness where it's like, I'm so done. I'm so done with this right now.
Well, right, let's go ahead and jump into this main topic. Let's stop into rivals. So today, guys, I wanted to bring you guys a class breakdown because I've noticed this a lot online. A lot of people are playing hero shooters for the first time. Now, we do have a lot of people coming over from Overwatch because Overwatch is notorious for just wanting all of your money, and Marvel Rivals is pretty much free. And the amount that you can put into it if you choose to is minimal.
Yeah.
Like, I put $10 in for the battle pass. I don't have to put anything else in, right? I can just play the game now. If I choose to buy a skin, then that's on me. So, but I have noticed there is a lot of people who don't understand hero shooters in general. So, if this is you, if you played the game and you didn't get it, and you're just like, I don't like this because I don't understand, maybe you would want to give it another shot after hearing that. So, first and foremost, we have our 3 types of heroes, right? We have our Vanguard hero, our Strategist hero, and our Duelist hero. Everybody says something different for these. If you have never played a hero shooter before, you probably don't understand those terms. So Vanguard is what is equivalent to a tank. The tank is a balanced character who has good damage and a high health pool. Very easy for newer players to get into because you can take the hits. If you've never played a hero shooter before, you're not used to the, running in and getting shot twice and dying, and you're just getting frustrated. Maybe try a tank, a Vanguard hero. They will give you a longer lasting lifespan than any of the other classes by themselves. Then we have our strategist heroes, which is our supports or our healers. You'll probably hear that a lot. Where are my heals?
Mm-hmm. I never say that.
Yeah.
Or think it.
Ever. So they provide healing and buff to your team. Healings and buffs. So specifically to Marvel Rivals, a great example of a true support strategist hero, I think, is Mantis. Because she does not only the healing, which is good healing, it's healing over time. So I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people are down on Mantis, because they don't understand the healing over time effect. You have to get your healing out before somebody's in trouble. If you get it out after they're in trouble, they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So, but on the other end of that, Mantis also gives a attack buff. So she allows all the other players in the game to deal more damage. She can also do that for herself. And whenever you give her the attack buff, she also starts that healing over time. So Mantis is very good in defining what a support hero is by being able to also keep your people alive while also keeping them strong and keeping yourself strong.
Mm-hmm.
Our last class that we have is Duelist, also referred to as the DPS, which is damage per second. This grouping of heroes is purely meant to do that. They are meant to put the damage out as much as possible, as fast as possible. So you have lower health and a higher damage as a DPS character. And that is the generic overview as far as the classes go in a hero type shooter.
Sure.
Now, that being said, there are if this but that's types of heroes.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. So like you can have a hero that is half DPS, half tank.
Mm-hmm.
We just got one in Mr. Fantastic. He can take a lot of damage. He gets those overshields. He puts out okay damage, but he's not the end all be all as far as damage output.
He's rough, man. I hate.
Yeah. He is hard to deal with. He's hard to deal with, he's hard to play.
Yeah.
But it's because he is that mixed aspect of a tank and a DPS. Another good example of a mixed aspect of tank and DPS is Magic. She generates overshields for herself, essentially, extra health, by dealing damage. But she also doesn't deal a crazy amount of damage. She is a character that is meant to get in, kill a character, get out. Right? Or if your team is stuck and you're struggling, get in, deal as much damage to everybody as possible, and try to get out before you die. That way you put your team in a better position to go in. And she can also take a lot of damage because of it. So, there's a lot of overlap in certain heroes. Doctor Strange is another example of tank DPS, but he is actually a tank. He can put out a lot of good damage, but he also has his shields. He has his overshield. He has his portals to get people in or out of sticky situations. As a tank, Doctor Strange is probably the strongest tank right now because he can put out much more damage than all the other ones with all of his range of attacks. You look like you don't. You look like you disagree. You're gonna say Groot?
See, I don't know. I think and this is where things get a little complex, right? And I think that Marvel Rivals very specifically didn't choose to name them tank, DPS, or support. That they named them differently, very specifically because if you're thinking about, and I've seen this a lot with people that come from Overwatch, they want to put them in that same box that Overwatch has established. Granted, Overwatch has some overlap too. It's been a couple of years since I've really played it. But for the most part, things stick very well inside that box that they created. Yep. Marvel Rivals has a lot of swing. Yeah. And I think that's why they called them Vanguard instead of tank. I think that's why they called them Duelist instead of DPS. And I think that's why they called them Strategist instead of support, is because of that is a better descriptor of what they are. Because the Duelists are more spent, or they're more specific to very individual damage,
right?
And you get a little splash. I mean, a lot of the characters have some splash to kind of compensate for the fact that everybody's moving very crazily across the field and things like that. But for the most part, that is kind of their thing. They're meant to go in and take out a character at a time. Or do a lot of damage, and you can kind of spread that damage, but most of the time their damage is directed at a specific individual. Whereas Vanguard, they have those big swings too, and they're really meant to be in the mix, right? As opposed to a typical tank where they have high damage and they usually have they have a higher health pool and a lower damage that they can do. I've realized in Marvel Rivals, a lot of the tanks can do a lot of damage. Specifically, like Doctor Strange, even Captain America, if you play him right, he is honestly, in my opinion, one of the harder characters to play. To play right, I should say.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, Venom. Venom does a crap ton of damage, but they have that survivability so that they can be in the mix where a large group of people are, like a Vanguard. Kind of breaking the way and kind of shoveling through everybody at once. And then your strategist, because it's more about a strategic play. Loki, right? He has a little bit of heals, but he can also do damage, and he has these decoys. Even Invisigirl, right? Who can throw up these invisible shields and kind of do this stuff. She can do a lot of damage too, and things like that. So that is where I disagree, because I mean, I don't think Doctor Strange does the most amount of damage, specifically because I'm thinking of like Venom and Captain America, because Captain America can lay the smackdown on some duelists. But you've got to play him very right. He's you kind of got to pick your moments and be very mobile with him. It kind of is similar to how Venom is. He just doesn't have the same survivability that Doctor Strange has with his shield, or that Venom has with his symbiote thing, where he and he gets that blue bar.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Sorry, that was the only thing that I can.
I 100% agree with you, because in my mind, I said it, and I think I didn't say it correctly. I think Doctor Strange is the best tank, not necessarily that he's the best Vanguard in the game.
Oh, and okay. I think I can probably agree with you. I think if you're thinking about it in that box of a tank that we're typically associating with Overwatch, then you're correct. He reminds me a lot of Reinhardt.
Yeah,
right?
He has a ton of survivability.
Big, huge shield. Yeah.
Big old shield. Can tank the damage for his team.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best Vanguard. So in these generic boxes that Russ is talking about with tank, support, DPS, Marvel Rivals is more of a blend, which is why they do have the different naming scheme, as Russ was saying. So to say what is best per person, you're not going to find the answer here on this podcast or even online, in my opinion. You are not going to find the answer to what is the best character online, because you can have a character that everybody says is garbage, which I would say very early on, people were saying Namor was garbage. Nobody wanted to play Namor.
Far from it.
No, in the beginning. In the beginning of season 0.
No, maybe. I don't know. I don't have social media.
In the beginning of season 0, people were saying that he doesn't attack fast enough and that his little minions don't deal enough damage. But then people started figuring out how to play him. And now he's one of the top heroes.
I think people were trying to play him like Sinestro.
Yeah.
From Overwatch, right? Because you have that overlap. And a lot of people that liked Overwatch came over. Yeah. And they play so differently.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. So now that we've explained a little bit about the classes, I have some questions here for us to answer, to go in, talk about what we play, to give people kind of an idea, go a little bit more in depth of how we play the game and what characters we choose. Sure. So let's start with Beef. So what character or characters do you main, for each type? So which Vanguard would you main, which DPS, or not DPS, which duelist, and which strategist?
Oh, For Vanguard, I main Groot. That's the only one that I've been able to figure out and be able to play. And that's where like the whole floating comes in, because 90% of the time when I'm Groot, I will have, unless I'm playing with Bell as Magneto, because he'll always block more damage than me. But I typically, if I'm Groot, I'll end up with the most damage blocked and the most damage done. Like quite often, unless I have a really good DPS on my team, usually as Groot, I'll end up with the most damage. Like I love playing Groot. It makes it very fun for me. Without going on a tangent of Groot, for Duelist, my primary main would be Punisher. I can slay with Punisher. I also play Hela, and I'll play Namor. I only say Namor now because that's what they say in the game. Anyway, yeah, I'll play them. I'll dabble with Iron Man. He's not, I haven't figured him out. I know that's the beauty of this game. Every single character has potential if you can figure out how to use it. Right. So like people be like, oh, this character's so OP. No, they're not. The next character's just as OP as them. You just don't know how to play them. Like you'll figure it out. Like I can't play Spider-Man, but I have definitely gotten pooped on by my fair share of Spider-Man, Spider-Man players who know how to play him.
Man. I was playing a match earlier where he was so squirrely. You couldn't get enough damage on him to really do much, because he would come in and you'd see him and you'd start firing at him and he'd be like, I'm out of here. Psh, I'm gone. And you're like, you sucker.
Dude, some of these characters every single character in this game has potential, right? I said, every single character has potential if you can figure it out. The only character which I still stand by needs at least a little bit more delay so you know it's happening is Jeff's ult. Jeff's ultimate it needs at least like 1 more second of time for you to think before it happens, because Jeff's ult is literally the only ult in my game that can in my opinion, that can literally change the entirety of a game. Is Jeff's ult.
I'm gonna mildly disagree with you, because I think that becomes, and I hate to say it, I think that actually might be a skill issue.
Well, it is, depending on what character you're playing. So not all characters have escapability, right? So like if I'm playing Namor, I have an easy out. Namor not every character does. Like Punisher kind of does, because he has his zip line. You can throw the zip line as Punisher, but you also have to be in a position where it'll allow you to throw it. And by the time you hear Jeff's ult, you ain't got time.
So this is the thing with him. If you hear Jeff's ult and you immediately drop down a turret, he can't swallow you.
Well, so fun fact. I don't know if this was an issue since the update. I don't remember who I was playing with. It was one of the guys on Space Mafia. They were in the turret and got swallowed. So I don't know if it was just a bug.
In the turret, it's when you're dropping the turret. So the animation of dropping the turret gives you invulnerability frames.
Yeah.
So you can, if you drop it as soon as you hear the ult, by the time the invulnerability frames kick in, you can't be swallowed.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm sure there's probably some capacity. Regardless, skill issue, sure, we'll go with it. But
hold
on, Ross. Ross, you will have your turn. Shut up.
But it's specific to Jeff. That's the point.
Okay, fine. Talk. Go ahead. Sorry, I want to throw in one shut up, Ross, for fun.
I think it's a middle ground, right? I'm kind of gonna play the middle here, where I agree with Beef. There's some kind of tweaking that needs to occur with Jeff, because it feels, especially because I typically am playing tank, and sometimes I switch to the others, is because I'm usually the one who gets swallowed, because I'm usually in the mix as a Vanguard, and that's when I get swallowed. And if you're playing like Cap, there is nothing you can do. Now, if he throws you off the side, like sometimes you can do the run animation and jump and do his like a star thing, Stars of Freedom, the dive, and you can get back. But if Jeff just goes off the edge with you, you are
there's nothing you can do.
SOL.
Yeah, so, and that's for everyone.
So sometimes it's a skill issue, but sometimes you're just screwed and there's nothing you can do about it. And it sucks.
Yeah. I think I'm just speaking the words of Go ahead, Ranger.
Well, I was gonna say I think that some characters, there is just like a nothing you can do about it when you get swallowed, especially if he runs you off the map. Because once you've been swallowed, so like Doctor Strange, for instance, he can float
Levitate, yeah.
if he gets spit out, but if he is just swallowed and Jeff runs off the map, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
So
Groot's the same way too, because Groot doesn't have any movement abilities. So that's my main one that I get salty with is when I get swallowed by Jeff as Groot. It's just like, well, I guess I'm dead. But
I think
either way, let me get to my strategist. So I got through the DPS guys that I do play. I really want to try a melee DPS. I really do, like Black Panther or not DPS. I keep saying a duelist. I really want to try someone like melee. So like Black Panther, Magic, like Spider-Man semi-melee. What's that? Magic's hard. Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah. But it's just like I've said before, it's the same with every single character in this game is very capable if you know how to play it. So, like for me, Punisher and Hela and Namor. Now, Punisher and Hela are both hit scan, and definition of hit scan is basically wherever I'm pointing and shooting, my bullet is going to hit that instant. There's no travel time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the second I pull that trigger, it's going to hit that target I'm pointing at. So, like for me, that's just second nature from, like I said earlier, all that Call of Duty playing. So like when I first played the game, I played Punisher and I was able to slay right off the rip because it's point and shoot for the most part. Now Namor is similar because you just point and shoot, but there is travel time, so you have to plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Now in terms of strategist, the only strategist I've been able to figure out is Rocket. I will say though, I still haven't figured out how people drop big damage numbers with Rocket. I know he's very capable. And even in the games where I do try to shoot and be more involved with fighting, like he can melt through a tank or a Vanguard. If you're face to face with a Vanguard as Rocket, you can melt through one, especially if you're getting crits. You can annihilate them. But even if I do that and annihilate like a bunch of people in a match, I'll still have like 3,000 damage at the end of it. So I don't know. I'm doing something wrong, clearly. Someone else figured out some trick to be able to do more damage, and I don't watch YouTube or any of that. But I can still drop in with a rocket and drop a crazy amount of heals and have a blast doing it because you're just zooming around, you just shoot your little healing orbs everywhere, and you just keep moving, and it's fun. I've tried a couple of the other strategists. I can't do it. I can't play any of them. I don't know what it is with me. There's like a mental block. I can't figure out any of those strategists. So I at least have Groot and I have Rocket if I have to fill those voids, but I'm definitely a duelist main.
Yeah. What about you, Russ? What are your mains?
First, I think so. Instead of a delay, I think that the Jeff problem would be fixed if his area that he could swallow was smaller.
Yeah,
because it is massive and can swallow an entire team, and that I feel is dumb.
And there's also the issue of if you're technically outside of it. So there's a radius, like a good radius, like a pretty good radius outside of the actual animation on the screen.
Yeah.
That you can still be caught in it, and you have to touch the ground way outside of it for it to not grab you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if his radius was just reduced, I think it would fix a lot of my problems with it, because then he wouldn't be able to get on a point and swallow everybody on the point, because that is dumb to me. Yeah. Anyway, so I usually stick for Vanguard. I stick with Cap. I swing a little bit over to Doctor Strange and to Venom, depending on the situation and what I feel like is called for. But usually I stick to Cap. I really love his mobility. He's a deep diver. And mostly I love playing Cap with like a Hulk, right? Because Hulk is another deep diver too. And you get Cap and you get Hulk diving into their backlines together. And it can shut some people down hard.
Yeah.
Will is somebody that he's a Hulk main, right?
He's so good.
And
Big
so what the two he'll dive in and then I'll dive off at like a little bit over. And I'll start picking off some of their supports while he's handling their duelists or their strategists. I'll start picking up their strategists while he's picking up their duelists, and we can just annihilate a backline and move forward. There's one time I remember very specifically. We had dove into their backline because we were just, I mean, and to the point to where Fudd, who was running our strategist and was doing healing with Cloak and Dagger, and he was like, I can't catch, I've lost you guys. Like, you're way out there. But we were fine, and so like there are people that are trying to run away from him as the Hulk, and they ran into me as Cap, and I just finished them off. And it was just an amazing experience because we were deep diving, and everybody's running from Hulk, but they're running into me, and it was annihilation. It was great. There was also a point because Hulk and Cap are so mobile, so we had deep dived again. Fudd is the only person on the point because the rest of the team followed us. So they're picking up their vanguards while we're taking out the strategists and the duelists. And so Fudd is the only one on the point. We had killed their entire team. And so then Fudd is going, their whole team is here. Their whole team is here. Their whole team is here. And he was like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. And by the time he had finished, oh crap, I'm gonna die, both Will and I, boom, had landed on the point and just started mopping everybody up as they were trying to trickle back onto the point. And it was ridiculous and it was amazing. So Cap was my favorite. If I can get a good if I can get a good Hulk or somebody who's gonna dive with me, because then it increases Cap's survivability. Because Cap he's a running gunner, is essentially what he is. And that's actually his big thing. He has a sprint. And you want to be using sprint the entire time because you can sprint and hit people. And so people will try to move away from you, and then you're just sprinting on them, pounding on them. And also, this is something, so his hits do a little bit of damage, and they do good, consistent damage over time. But his shield does a ton more damage. And so one of Cap's things is you get 3 or 4 hits, boom, 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 and then you want to back off and throw the shield. And that's how you really delete somebody. Yeah. You don't want to stay on them the whole time. So you want to run in, you want to boom, 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 and then you want to take off and start throwing your shield as you're moving away from them, and you can really delete some people that way. His shield is also fantastic, but it's really only personal defense. But if you're the only one on the point and you're trying to hold off an entire team, you can dance around that point, use it as cover and your shield to keep people from doing a lot of damage to you. Like if you're holding the point while you're waiting for your team to get back, it's a great way to do it. You dance around that point using it as cover and throw your shield up, because the shield takes a ton. It just doesn't cover a large area.
Also, I saw something online about Cap actually, where his sprinting animation, like when you activate his sprint, is also an animation cancel. So people have taken to where instead of click to run and you just go, they change it to hold to sprint. So then they'll sit there and they'll just spam their buttons because it cancels the animations and it makes them even faster.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I have I think I have hold the sprint on. Yeah, he's crazy fast, which is great. And like, because he'll jump so high in the air, and then he has that dive, which stuns people, and it's great. Like he's the mop up action. And if you're not diving with him to get in, do some damage, and pull people off of the point, you're probably doing it wrong. Because that's kind of what his point is he comes in, he dives on the back lines, he's going to do some damage, and then he's going to take off once they realize he's there. Because he has a large health pool, but not super large, right? So you want to get in, you want to do some damage, you want to book it back to your healers, or know where your health pools are so you can come and grab them, and then dive back on to their back lines and just keep,
pressure.
Yeah. So that's what I love about Cap, because you're constantly moving, you're constantly doing stuff. And like I said, when you get a good tank that's diving with you, and that has the potential to dive with you, it's pretty nasty. Hulk and Cap make a great combo. My duelist, I usually go with Punisher. I'm like Beef. I really really like Punisher. I've really grown to like him as I've kind of practiced with him in the last couple of days. Just because Punisher has a really good ability to be close damage dealing and far damage dealing.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be really, really nasty if you're quick with it. If you can get a defensible spot and set up his turret, I mean, it's nasty. And if you can get a strange in front of you that's just holding it, I mean, you can hold forever and delete people off of the map. Like it's crazy. But one of my favorite things to do is actually, because your default is his assault rifle, right? And that's great. But then once people start to close on the point, you can flip to that shotgun. And I mean, Vanguards, that is the best, because Vanguards think, oh, I can get in close with this guy and he's not going to do a ton of damage. You flip to that shotgun, 3 shots. And it fires relatively quickly. 3 shots and you can take down, Groot or definitely Cap. That's one of my favorite things, is just Groot's throwing up walls and I'm just taking the walls out, and then he'll start to try to close in, and then I just delete him with a shotgun. Really, really effective against people who are playing Groot, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And then for strategists, the only strategist that I really feel as if I can do decent with is Warlock.
Mm.
He has a really good heal. That's his bread and butter, right? Is that heal? But he can also lay down some pretty significant damage, and I've actually found. So I can't remember what button it is. I think it's F or something like that, where he will fire all the shots that he currently has at a single person.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get that at the right moment, I mean, it's game over. The only thing I quite haven't figured out with him is that timing on the res.
Yeah.
I can't figure out if I need to put it down before or right after people die. Either way, it doesn't seem to work, and I don't res anybody. Or if I do, it's completely on accident.
So from what I've noticed, it's a little bit before and after. It's a little bit of both.
I think you're supposed to throw it down once people start to die.
Yeah.
You kind of want to throw it down, and then it kind of goes before and after, but I haven't quite figured out that timing. I'm having a hard time with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to float. I have a few different duelists that I play with. I have a few different Vanguards that I play with. Those are the 2 that I usually stick with, so that I can address the situation as needed. Right? If I need somebody, if I feel like the team needs somebody who can sustain a lot of damage, then I'll switch over to Strange. Like if we're having trouble pushing on a specific point, I'll switch over to Strange, because then, you have that big shield, and you can pick people off from a distance, which is nice. If I feel like I need to break up some lines, then I'll go Cap, and Cap is typically my default. And then for Duelist, I've started to pick up Iron Man a little bit. Started to play Punisher's the one that I have the most time in as far as duelists go. I know a little bit of Wolverine. He's kind of hard because you gotta be able to hit those charges and those stuns really well. And people are moving pretty quick, and I am not super quick. And so it's hard with Wolverine, but yeah.
For me,
what about you, Ranger?
I didn't forget. I promise.
I was trying to help you out. I wanted to pretend to be a co-host for a minute.
Oh, okay.
What about you, Ranger?
Well, try harder.
My Vanguard main is Doctor Strange. I have been fiddling around with Thor, trying to get how Thor works, but he's kind of one of those. He's one of those characters that you have a loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to figure out exactly how to time that loop and how to get out of that loop and get back in. So I'm struggling to find the timing of things with Thor. And I don't know why. I usually have really good timing instincts. Like I was able to play
He's
Moon
weird.
Knight. Yeah. And I was able to play Moon Knight very successfully when the game first dropped.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's hard for me to figure out his timings. But my main is Doctor Strange because of all the reasons we've listed. I've seen things online about how to do his animation cancels because I couldn't find them myself, and that really helped me. He doesn't actually have a lot of animation cancels, surprisingly. So you can't his animations are so fast you can't cancel them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he is more of a string animations together kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you throw his attack, you pop your shield real quick, and then you throw his attack. So you're mitigating incoming damage while also still putting out damage.
Okay.
Or alternatively, you can go full on duelist with him,
Mm-hmm.
and you can throw his attack, then do his melee, then throw his attack, then do his melee, then E burst out, and then throw his attack and do his melee.
His melee is bonkers.
Yeah, the
It
amount of
does.
damage it
I
does.
didn't realize how much damage it did until today because I saw like I was fighting with a strange and he started doing the melee and I was like, oh yeah, he has a melee, and I started doing it when they would push up, and it's crazy how much damage it does. I was shocked. I was like, holy crap! I am doing way more damage to Venom than I thought I was able to.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people say he's the best tank. And again, tank, not Vanguard, because he has that ability to spread between. He has the ability to spread out what he's doing between I'm dealing damage, I'm taking damage, I'm dealing damage and taking damage. He has the ability to spread that out very far.
Yeah.
And then he also has that ultimate that just says, okay, we're done doing this. You guys are dead now.
That one, I've found it hard to do when you don't have good communication with your team.
Yes.
Like if you're playing by yourself. We had this game earlier today, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the perfect time to throw the ult. So I threw the ult because they were all glommed up together. And I threw the ult, but our team was too focused somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't take advantage of it. And it sucked.
And I think one of the skills I want to learn with Strange specifically is how do I get my ult off and at least get 2 kills out of it by myself.
Yeah, right.
So I've started doing this a little bit, and I haven't gotten good with it yet. But when I do my ult, I try to position myself next to the strategist for the other team.
Okay.
So I'll ult, attack, melee on one on each, right? So they both go to about half health. And then I'll pop my E burst, which usually wipes them out.
Yeah.
So that's great for trying to get rid of. If you're by yourself, it's great. Like, you know what? I'm by myself. I'm going to get rid of you guys' support. That way, when my team gets here, you guys are screwed.
Right.
So I've been trying to figure that out. It's not as easy as I just said it. Like, it's easier said than actually doing.
Right.
Another good thing I want to play with is if in a clutch moment of a game, taking a portal, putting it over top the enemy team, dropping in, doing my ult, and getting my, like, just ending the game. I want to do that at some point.
That would be cool. Nice hero moment.
There are a couple of cool things because you were with us when we were playing with Native. What was it? Friday night? Friday
Probably.
night.
Yeah, I think so.
Where he accidentally threw the portals on the point.
Yeah.
Like there were just 2 kind of, I think they were facing the opposite ways, but there were 2 right there. And it actually worked out really, really well where it provided cover for the people who were in the middle. Or like when I was playing Punisher and he threw the portal out and then threw it in front of their team and I just kind of sat back in my turret and like the portal is really handy. I haven't been able to figure out the portal. How to use it super effectively.
Yeah. The only great effectiveness I've gotten out of it is I've done the portal setup with Punisher and I've done the off the map portal.
Yep.
I've done both of those. Those are the only two things I've actually mastered with that portal. There's a lot of mastery for Strange.
I got by one of the off the map portals because I'm brain dead.
He was
literally
waiting.
Looked through the portal and I saw that it goes to Narnia and I'm like, oh, who put this here? Because we had a Strange on our team too. And it was literally right off the rip, very beginning of a fresh game. We had a Strange on our team, Strange on the other team. This was early on before I knew how like the ult works. So like we were on offense, so we were just behind the wall. So they had all their prep time. Well, in his prep time, the other Strange put a portal right outside our entrance And I was like, oh, our teammate must have just thrown this here. I'm going to hop in. And I hopped right in and fell to my death, and everybody else just walked around it. I'm like, great.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that.
One
I got
thing I've
excited
seen-
as Cap and just booked it, and I was like, oh no. Wile E. Coyote moment.
One thing I've seen that I think is hilarious that I would love to try and do, but I always forget to try and do, is when it's capture the point, not to push the cart, but capture the point.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have been hijacking Strange's portals. So essentially, if you're Strange and your opponents have a Strange, their Strange is trying to make a portal for them to get onto the point. What you do is you set your portal outside of the point, or like outside of the map, and you wait for the other Strange to try and like get to his animation, and then you drop yours right there. They think that your portal is their Strange's portal that they've been waiting on, and they all go through it off the map. So you're hijacking the other Strange.
That's a good one.
You got a
So-
big brain to pull that off, though.
Yeah, you gotta plan it well. You have to time it very, very well because it has to look natural, right? If the
Right.
Strange is still summoning his portal, but then all of a sudden there's a portal there, they're not going to go through it.
Right.
So, but as far as duelist for myself, I do play Moon Knight as my main, and I've been learning Magic. Magic is very hard.
Magic is. I've tried her before, and I was like, I can't figure this out.
Yeah. So her big, the way she gets movement, her
Mhm.
little portal jumps that she does, they recharge really fast. But if you spam them back to back, you're gonna have to go a few minutes without one, a few seconds without one. So her big thing is portal in, do some damage, then portal out. And if you need to get farther away, you dash away. Because by the time if you leave it for a second, you deal some damage. Then by the time you portal a second time, you're already 3/4 to your next portal. So her portals do charge quickly. You just have to slow down and not try and you don't want to get yourself to 10 HP and then try to double portal backwards. Right.
Oh.
So it's managing that cooldown. But she is still very hard because of and I think this is something to be said for most, if not all, of the heroes in this game. A lot of them have a low skill floor and an extremely high skill
High
ceiling.
skill ceiling, yeah.
Like, I think Magic is one of the ones that has a higher skill floor. Like you have to learn before you can really get decent. But
Yeah, well, because if you're not using your portals, you're very slow.
yes.
Magic is super slow, and so you really have to have that timing down, because otherwise she's just left out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna get killed very, very quickly.
Yeah. And with Magic you have to have a lot of map knowledge as well. You have to know where you're at on a map, so if you need to get to a health pack, you can get to a health pack. Or if you need to disappear down a hallway because the entire enemy team is looking at you now, you need to be able to disappear down that hallway.
Right.
You don't need to be wasting time turning around looking for the hallway to be like, that's where I need to go, because by the time you see it, you're dead.
Or you're in the Hydra map and the door disappears behind you, and you're like, F my life.
Yeah.
I thought I was diving in on these people, and now I can't get out.
Yep. So, but there's a lot of heroes like that have a low skill floor. Like you can jump in and just play them, but then once you match up against somebody who is just good at that character, like really good at that character, you see how much better they are than you, and you're just like, I did not know this character could do that.
Iron Man, I feel like, is one of those. Because I feel like he's relatively easy to, okay, I'm going to fly around and I'm going to shoot people from high up, right? Which works great until you get somebody who's really familiar with dealing with Iron Man, and they're like, oh, no. You, sir, are not going to be able to do that. And you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, apparently, with this character. Or you go to get a health pack and you get trapped in a building that is rebuilding around you, and you're like, oh, I don't know where I'm at, and now I'm dead.
I've only done it once, but my favorite kill on an Iron Man I had as Magic. So Magic is a melee character. She does not have a slew of ranged opportunities to just look up and fire Iron Man out of the sky. My favorite thing was she does have a charged throw that does not have damage fall off, and it does not have a range. So you can throw it infinitely and deal the same amount of damage.
That's cool.
but it's a straight line. So if they move out of the way, you missed. My favorite is I led an Iron Man while I was charging and hit him square on, took half of his health away, and he ran away, but he ran away from his healers. He was doing the whole flying at the top of the map thing, and so he just flew off to get cover. And he waited for a second for people to forget about him, but I had watched him do it, so I knew he was still up there. As soon as I saw that my throw was charged again, I looked up, and sure enough, he was flying back out, feeling comfortable, charged it all the way up again, smacked him out of the sky, and I was like, you just got knocked out of the sky as Iron Man by magic. I hope you feel good about yourself.
Very satisfying moment.
My
fun ones are when like I said, I play a lot of Groot, and Groot is very fun and hits like a freaking truck. So if Groot only has a certain reach though. Now he does have his right click is throw this little ball out that does damage. Then when it pops, it does little orbs of splash damage. Now the ball has a very slow travel speed, right? So I make it my personal game. Anytime there's an Iron Man, I go for it. I just try to hit him out of the sky with that ball because there's serious drop off, but there's no distance limit. It's just there's serious drop off and it's not fast. So like if he's paying any attention to me, the Iron Man can very easily dodge it. But if they're not, or if I get very lucky, I can hit them. So I like to play. It never kills them. It does enough damage to be annoying, but it's just fun and very satisfying if I get that hit. And then when I play against the Iron Man players who don't know how to play and they get just within reach of me as Groot, they're like 3-shot dead. So like I can just melt through an Iron Man. It's not like they bother me if they're the dumb ones who stay within arm's reach of Groot.
But then you get the good ones that can melt a Groot.
Oh yeah. Like I said, every single character in this game has a skill cap. Every single character can melt. Like you can be god tier with every character in this game. You can. If I hop on Captain America, I'd be surprised if I got like 3 kills. If Russ hops on Captain America, he could probably slay out a lobby because he's played a lot of Captain America. I have not. So that's what makes it fun with this game, having that skill cap. You got to learn each individual character and get good with each character.
Yeah. For my go ahead.
I was just going to say too, like you can be the best at a particular character, but you also got to have a team that backs you up too.
Yeah.
Because there are times where you're like, yeah, I've killed like 2 or 3 people, and it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't get that momentum that you want because you're not having a team that backs you up. But that's also kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
In a weird way of like, especially, because you don't always have somebody that you can play with, or the people that you're playing with have to go to the store, or they're fixing their microphone, or they're taking a shower and a poo. And I'm not pointing at anybody in specifics, specifically. No, but it's like, so you kind of have to. It's still a team game. Is the point, I guess, that I'm trying to make. And you have to. You can be the best individual, but you also have to play as that team to succeed, and that's fun.
I agree. My strategist main is Cloak and Dagger. She's really good when you get good with them. The auto aim is really nice for healing. It's kind of a crutch. Kind of a crutch.
Yeah.
But
her and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
I cannot stand the fact that I can be around a corner and still be being hit by their damage.
Yeah. Now, I will say the auto tracking for Dagger for the heals is really great when you're trying to heal an Iron Man or a very movable character.
Right. Yeah.
However, something I'm learning that I realized was a part of my skill base that I had not learned yet. The daggers ricochet. So similar to Rocket, if you're around a corner, you can just and heal people around that corner.
Oh.
Neat.
It doesn't track anymore. At that point, it is only on you to aim it. So you have to learn a little bit of the physics of the game. And if you're hitting the wall at the wrong angle, it's going to bounce up instead of sideways. So it's a little bit harder to do it that way, but it's doable.
Huh.
So if I have a Captain America and myself, and we're the only 2 people trying to hold the line, I can effectively hide behind that corner and just ping that wall so Cap still gets his healing, and I just have to keep an eye out for the outline to make sure I'm following that wall so that he can keep pushing forward and backing up.
That's
Interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
I like playing that game with Rocket. You gotta get creative with the orbs. Like when I play with Fluffy and Fluffy runs Thor, he likes to just run off into La La Land. And I've tried chasing him. He's good. He's very good with Thor. Like he'll run off into La La Land and he'll come back. He'll be a little beat up, but he'll come back, grab his heels, go back into La La Land. And like the first time he did that, I don't remember which map it was, but he was at a high ground, but it was like a tunnel thing to go through. I can't remember what the map is. Anyway, he was running off and I could see his little silhouette running through the wall. And I was like, Fluffy, hey buddy, you want to come back here so I can heal you? He's like, I'll be fine. And then I'm watching, like you see as a healer, that critical health bar thing pops up. And I'm like, you sure? You good? Like, how you doing there, Fluffy? He's like, I'm okay. Like you hear the pitch go up a little bit. And I just started spraying the healing orbs down the tunnel. And luckily they ricocheted and I healed him and he got out of there. But yeah, it's fun playing that with Rocket because you just keep moving around. You just shoot them. Literally, like if you want to get good heals with Rocket, you just need to keep spraying those. They'll hit someone.
Yeah, and I will say, Dagger and Rocket do less healing than Luna Snow, but they can do the ricochet and they have the auto track.
Mm-hmm.
Luna has to be on you, so if they have to be on you, has to have line of sight. Yeah, sure, you can do more healing. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Who was
and
it?
If you're Ed,
so it was Fudd, and who was the person who was doing our healing Thursday night?
I did a little bit of healing, but I think who was it?
I'm trying to think who all was there. Because Thursday was the night that I bailed, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You would have had Fudd, Sith, Native, Ranger.
I can't remember. But between the two of them, the point being, between the two of them, we had like almost no deaths because they were on point, just throwing the heals down, and we rolled quite a few teams.
I know which game you're talking about. We had like 2 deaths across our entire team.
Mm-hmm. And they had like 28,000 healing. Yeah. Like one of them had 28,000 healing. The other one had, I don't know, something crazy.
I think it was like 30K.
Yeah.
I think they did 60K healing by themselves.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, and it was awesome because it was just we steamrolled. Just whoa.
Yeah. Well, this podcast is going a little bit long compared to normal, so we'll just go through a couple of these. So
probably my fault. Sorry about that.
No, it happens every time Beef is on. There's always a topic that just takes his attention, and he runs all the way down the rabbit hole with it, and then runs back and says, "Wait, hang on, I forgot something," and runs all the way back down the bottom and goes back.
I feel like I've been pretty tame this episode. I think we're gonna have to talk to the tangent master Russ over here.
Yeah, Beef. Maybe you need to shut up and let people talk.
So
yeah, Russ, shut the fuck up.
There's a couple of questions I wanted to address for some people who may not have played hero shooters very much. One of which, what does a balanced team mean or consist of? So I think in Marvel Rivals, it's a very interesting aspect because in Overwatch, they changed what that was. Initially, it was 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers, right? That was how Overwatch was run. And eventually, they changed it to be 1 tank, 3 DPS, and 2 healers. So the reason why is because they were having these standoffs that were lasting forever because there was 2 tanks taking all of the damage and nobody could get a kill.
Yeah.
So they eventually moved it to 1 tank, so at least there could be some give and take.
Right.
Well, I think Marvel Rivals, you can have 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers, and still have a give and take from both teams.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can also have a team, Beef, I don't know if you were in there or not, but we ran a game of all healers earlier this week.
I was not.
Just for shits and gigs. Just did it just because. We won. Because the supports, they don't put out that much damage, but we never died. They could not kill us. So it's, entirely a balanced team, in my opinion. In my opinion, a balanced team is having at least one person who can stand in front to tank 60% of the damage being output by your opponent team. At least one person. If you have two people, cool. They only have to take 30% each, right? And you have to have a support to some capacity to try and keep those two people alive, or one person, whichever, right? I think in this game specifically, a balanced team is whatever everybody's comfortable with, especially if you're playing with a full group of people that you're actually talking to. Because yes, the stereotypical balance is 2-2-2. That is the generic balance that everybody tries to shoot for. But if you have 3 DPS and 1 tank and 2 healers, you can make that work. It's when you start getting in, if you have 3 of any specific type, you can make it work. It's when you start getting into 4 and you've thrown everything off balance. You have 4 DPS, it is so hard. I will say there are the oddball games where your DPS players are really good. I played a game, we had 5 DPS, and I was the solo healer. And I played Cloak and Dagger. Because auto tracking, I can't be with all of these DPS all the time. I need to be able to track across the field. And we won. I had 35,000 healing by myself by the end of the game on DPS characters, which is a lot because they only have 250 health.
Yep.
But I kept most of the team alive pretty much the entire game. I think we had 5 to 6 deaths across the team. So, and the other team was a balanced 2-2-2. So in this game, I feel like it's more about the skill level that your team has can make the balance of your team.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right there with you because I was going to say, I've pretty much the only character that's integral is you have to have at least a support and they have to be good. Like you can't run through a game without any kind of healing whatsoever. You will get steamrolled. I don't care how good you are. If you have 0 healing, unless it's like literally god tier players versus someone who's never played the game before, like even then I feel like the only thing that's integral is support. Because I've played matches where I haven't done it myself. I've always had a fairly balanced team, but like I've played against teams before where it's 4 DPS, 2 heals, and they will just steamroll us because it's 4 duelists who know how to play the game and they were shooting everything like a laser beam, like dead on every time, just melting through everybody. Because with 4 DPS, you're doing a ton of damage. You're just melting through people. And even if the other team has 2 heals, yeah, sure. But if you have 4 DPS locked onto 1 tank, that tank's dead before a healer can do anything. Unless you have like an ult at that moment, depending on whose ultimate it is. So, yeah, the game leaves room for creativity. Like my ideal setup is if you have 1 good tank, 3 DPS, 2 heals. That's my ideal setup. But you have to have a good tank. Someone who's experienced with playing whatever tank that is. Like I like when I'm running Groot. If I'm running Groot, I just want 2 good supports, 3 DPS. That's all I need. Because as Groot, I can do enough damage too, and I can block a ton of damage as long as I have heals. So that's usually the lineup I go for. Now 2-2-2 still works fine as long, like again, playing Groot, I can still put out a ton of damage, so that still works. But I still prefer that 1-3-2 lineup. But that's just my personal preference.
For me, I think so. I don't think it matters when we're talking about Vanguard, Duelist, or Strategist. Because I think there's enough overlap between them all that it doesn't matter, right, if you've got 2 Vanguards, 2 Duelists, 2 Strategists.
Yeah.
I think where my ideal balanced team would be if you have a tank, right? Somebody who can take the damage and be on the point, right? There's typically a point in these games, and whoever can survive the onslaught. Doesn't matter if they're a duelist, it doesn't matter if they're a vanguard, it doesn't matter if they're a strategist, in my opinion. It's just got to be somebody who can survive on the point to hold that point. And then I think that then, like you were saying, right, you got to have 3 people that can do dives or deal damage or whatever it is that can harass the team, right? And again, right, because Cap, right, who's a vanguard, is probably more in that line than he is what we would consider a tank. right?
Yeah.
He's a harasser, is what he is, right? So I think you need a tank. You need 3 harassers, right? Sometimes you can pull it off with 4 harassers if one of them has enough survivability, right? To kind of mess with their lines, and usually within that 3, I would like somebody who can dive onto back lines, right? And then the 2 who can kind of pick people off, right? Do individual damage to a very specific person and go from there, right? So probably something like a tank, somebody who can harass, and then 2 people who are DPS, right? Who can deal out the damage over time to wipe up what the harasser is doing and kind of pulling everybody away. Yeah. And then I would like to have, I like it when I have 2 healers of whatever type, right? Because even Groot could technically be considered a healer because one of his walls does healing if you're close to it, right?
Yeah.
So two healers. 2 healers, I think there's enough wiggle room in there, whether it's a Vanguard, a Duelist, or a Strategist, where you can kind of find where that fits. But 2 people who can heal, so that you can get some extra healing. Maybe a main healer and like somebody who's kind of an off heal. Cloak and Dagger is a good one, right? Because she can do tons and tons of damage, but she's not solely a dedicated healer. You can play her that way, but she's not a solely dedicated healer. She kind of floats in between. Yeah. That would be my ideal balance.
And I think what you were saying there, Russ, about not mattering as far as the class types in Rivals versus stereotypical tank DPS healer.
Yeah.
I think that's very important for this game. Your balance is mostly dictated by the level of playability of your team. It is not balanced because, we picked these specific characters, now we have a balanced team.
Right.
So that's kind of the point that I wanted to iterate with that question was your balance is up to you and your team. You know, we could run, if we have the right people from our communities that we play with, you can run 1 healer or healer.
Right.
You know, you can run 1 dedicated healer with 4 of the Duelist heroes and 1 of the Vanguard heroes that is meant to take damage, and you can wipe games with that. Yeah. With the people that we have in our communities, if you have the right team put together, you can do that easy. You just steamroll people. But on the other hand of that, if you get certain members of our community together, you're gonna have issues because they don't play specific subclass types, right? Or specific overarching class types. So Fudd, for example, he has dived into Cloak and Dagger hard. He loves playing Cloak and Dagger. But if we were to give him Captain America, he wouldn't really know what he's doing. So it would take the balance of that team way down because people who look at the game and see Vanguard as a tank, and that's just what they see as Vanguard. Yeah. They'll go in and try and block damage, realize, I can't block that much damage. Okay, I'll try to do some damage. I'm not doing damage well. I don't know what I'm doing now. And that part of your team will suffer. So the balance is really dictated by what your team wants to play as and what they are good at playing. And it's more dictated in this game by individual level, the team compatibility and the individual level across that team.
Yeah, I agree.
The other 2 questions I think can kind of be blended in together, and then we'll go ahead and go into closeouts. But so a question I've saw on a lot of other people's things, not necessarily with us, but watching the internet and diving through comment sections, things like that. How do I get good with 1 or multiple heroes? Air quotes around get good, right? The only thing I can say is practice. Like trial and error, practice, play that character. That's the only thing I can say. I picked up Magic 3 days ago, right? And I've had 4 days off now, so I got to play a lot of Magic the last 3 days. If you only get an hour of game time a night, it's going to take you a lot longer than 3 days. When I started playing Magic, every game I played was 2 kills, 12 deaths. Like consistent. 2 kills, 12 deaths. 2 kills, 12 deaths. I've gotten to the point now where I go positive almost every game. There's very rarely a game that I go negative in my KD. Now,
there you go.
I've also learned that Magic has a very, very, very high skill ceiling. Like, you can get to the point where you're taking down individual characters by yourself the entire game, and you're securing your kills, and nobody is helping you pretty much the entire game. And you can play a game like that and get 20 plus kills. I'm not at that level yet, and I know that. But the first step is to go positive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You got to get good enough to go positive, and then you know that you're doing something. So I would say that as far as getting good is literally just the time and effort you're willing to sink into learning the ins and outs of that character and playing it in the actual game.
And I agree with you. I do think Marvel Rivals has a really good practice arena too.
Yes.
A surprisingly good practice arena to get to know some of the ins and outs of the characters without necessarily having to go in and die a bunch. Also, they have, so if you go to like the character roster outside of the game and you go into that individual character, it not only tells you what their abilities do, like I didn't know for the longest time that Venom had a wall crawl, and not only that he had a wall crawl, he had a wall run. Venom is very slow unless you're using his swing ability. However, if you climb up on the wall and then run across it, he is much, much faster.
Yes.
So it has a great, like, here is what it does. Here's how you get it to do this thing. And then it even has tips. Hey, and it actually shows you, which is great because I'm a visual learner, right? It'll show you on the screen, like it has that little tips and tricks section, and it'll go, okay, here is what we suggest you do. First, you go in with this attack, then you want to follow up with this, and this is the thing that you want to do after that, right? To give you kind of that basis. And it shows you exactly that thing kind of playing in an animatic that says, okay, this is the timing for that, because, right, timing is a big part of a lot of these things. And so you kind of get to see the visual cues of, oh, I did this. Now I'm going to do this. I'm thinking specifically about Wolverine, who's like, you want to pounce in, then when your health gets low, you want to pop this, and then what you want to do is you want to pull somebody out by doing his other tackle move that takes somebody with him, and you want to pull them out, and then you want to finish them up. Then your rage is built up, and then you pop back into and then you pull somebody out, and that's kind of the loop that you go in, and that's a good basis for how to operate Wolverine. So I think Marvel Rivals has some great tools outside of practice and things like that to go, okay, here's some basics on how you can use this character effectively.
Yeah. Another good tool is the replay system. I was mad about it earlier today because I went in to watch some of the, top players in the world. Because if you go into the, I can't remember which bar it is, but there's a bar, I think it's
See, I didn't know that.
Leaderboards?
Yes, leaderboards. Thank you. If you go into the leaderboards, it pulls up the top ranked players in the world. And it has a global setting, and it also has a friends list setting. So you can see where you're at amongst your friends as well if you want to.
Oh, I don't want to know.
Yeah. So I've saw it. I clicked on it to see who was number one, and I clicked away from it. I didn't actually pay attention to anything else.
Who was the number one? Out of curiosity.
On my friends list at the time, it was Will.
Yeah. Will's.
I was gonna say it should be Will and
probably on mine too.
So Russ, tidbit of info. It goes off. It's your competitive stat. It's not just like your overall. It's just your competitive stat. So like for me, Will's at the top. Native's right up there too. I can't remember who else is up near the top.
See, I haven't done any competitive matches.
Yeah, and there's only a handful of people in our community that we play with that consistently do competitive because they mostly roll solo.
Yeah.
But I was trying to look at the ones for the world, for the globe, and multiple of those people have their accounts locked down, so you can't go in and see their stats.
See the replays?
Yeah, you can't see their replays, you can't see their stats, you can't see what hero they main, you can't see any of that.
Interesting.
It bothered me because it's like, I know what that is. That's people who are too competitive.
Yeah.
They're like, I know how to play these specific things, and I know how to do it really, really well. I don't want anybody to learn from me. I want to be the best at this, so I don't want to share that with other people.
Yep.
It would make sense if you were making money off of it, but as far as I'm aware, there's no competitive money-making thing for Marvel Rivals right now.
They're just finishing up their first paid tournament. So they had a tournament announced for season 0, and it ended with the launch of season 1. So there was money made recently from it. Not a lot. Like, it was a team of 6, $10,000 prize split, or $6,000 prize split, or something like that.
Sure.
So it wasn't a lot, but there is potential for money to be grabbed, especially because they just made over $100 million.
Yeah,
Did they really?
Yeah, they made over $100 million since they came out.
Oh, good. Yeah, they're doing fine. They're going to keep it rolling.
So I expect at least at the end of every season a major tournament with a large prize pool.
And they made $100 million. I would be curious to know how much Disney made.
Oh, probably a shit ton.
I mean, because yeah, right? Because they're operating with the Disney license, which means that Disney's Scroogey about that. So it's at least a quarter, if not more.
And then even talking about that, on top of the fact that people who like Marvel movies but don't intimately know Marvel characters probably went out and bought a bunch of comic books, which is directly paying Disney.
Oh yeah.
And then all the people who are like native specifically, he just went back and rewatched the entire timeline of the Marvel movies.
Right.
So people are now buying into Disney Plus to watch all of that. So I would be willing to bet Disney made equal, if not double, what Marvel Rivals made.
Yeah.
Just because the game released.
Yeah, Disney's doing just fine.
I would not be surprised if Disney wasn't like, oh, you know what? This game is doing really well.
Let's buy all of it.
Well, maybe. Which would be terrible, actually. I would not want that. But no, I mean, I would not be surprised if Disney did not start to try to get into the e-gaming space specifically through this game.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And honestly, they have the money to do tournaments and do good payouts and do things that a lot of people who want this to be a career would want to participate in.
But look at what Activision did with the Overwatch League, right? Which ultimately failed, which I think a lot of that probably had to do with COVID, because I feel like it was doing okay before then.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, so I would not be surprised. I would wonder if it went well enough. I mean, Disney always starts small, and then they're like, it's kind of like what they did with Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Before they had their own streaming service, they're like, oh, all of our catalog is available on Netflix. And then they were like, wait. This is working really well. Everybody's watching our stuff. It's increasing our revenue. Why don't we have our own streaming service?
We'll make more money if we do it in-house.
Yeah.
There's always money found somewhere.
And then
with Disney, it doesn't have to be found. It's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I have as far as questions about our main topic is something I think that I personally went through recently and kind of figured out on my own, is where should I go if I don't understand a hero or a class? So what Russ was talking about with the training and the hero videos they can show you about how the character is supposed to work, great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely great place to start. After that, I would say the best way to get to understand is to go into at least one match with that hero or that class type to see where you fit in the flow of the game.
Mm-hmm.
For understanding purpose. And beyond that, like those are the first steps I would take. And then after that is when you go online. After that is when you go and you start looking YouTube, following Twitch streamers. Like, if you do that first, what a lot of people, what I didn't understand, because I did that first. I went straight to Twitch and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that first, the thing you're going to struggle with is these people are being paid to play video games for the most part, which means they spend 8 hours a day plus doing this. Their experience and them telling you, this is how I play this character. It's like saying, hey, you're level 1, I'm level 30. Here's this level 30 weapon to go into combat with.
Right.
in like any fantasy style video game. It's helpful. It gets you, especially in the early levels, it's very helpful, but it doesn't help you understand the character, and it doesn't give you the freedom of innovation while playing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for Magic, for example, like I said, I started by going to YouTube and to Twitch to see what was going on with that. And I saw one of the best combos, right? I still have only pulled it off twice in 3 days in actual game
Right.
because it is a very specific thing. You have to be laser focused. So essentially, the way it works is you portal towards an enemy, you do the swing attack. That's the for Beef. You haven't really played Magic, have you?
I have not.
So whenever you see her come out of a portal and she swings her sword in a circle,
Yep.
you can do that, or you can drop one of the little demon guys. So the main combo is you go through this portal towards a character, you click to do the swing, and at the same time you click to do the dash attack. And what that does is it causes the animation to do them simultaneously. So you dash forward while you're doing the swing, and when you hit the side of the character, you do your uppercut. So you've dealt damage all the way through to the person you're targeting. You've cut them up into the air. Their health pool is at half. You give them one slash and then melee cancel, and it usually kills them. If they have a little bit more health, on your way down, you charge up one of your thrown slashes. But like it uses all of your
Interesting.
abilities. It uses every single one of your abilities to do it. So the only thing you have left at the end of that sequence is
There's a portal.
one portal to get out. That's it.
Huh.
So like that's the main combo they say to use for finishing your kills.
Mm-hmm.
What I've learned from going into the training and going into watching those videos and playing the character actively, that's not all the time. That is not your main bread and butter combo that you want to use for the entire match, because one, it uses all of your abilities. Two, it's a very precise combo. So if you guys, I'm sure you guys are aware of aiming to the slightly to the right of the person you're targeting, right?
Yes, I have discovered that. It's like just a smidge, but yeah.
Yeah. Russ, do you know about that?
The magic combo?
No, aiming to the
No.
right of your target.
I saw something about that. Is that true with all characters? I thought it was only true with like Hawkeye or something.
So it's true for all characters. Your hitbox on the right side of the enemy versus the hitbox on the left side of the enemy is worse, because something about how third-person shooters work and the way the reticle is positioned in your screen, your reticle is slightly off of where your character actually is. So if you hit on the left side, you're too far over. If you hit on the right side, you're not quite in the middle, but you're still going to hit.
Right.
So with Magic's combo, you have to hit close enough on that right side for it to count, but not too far away on the other side, and you can't hit to the left at all. So it's very, very precise. You have to hit that slot. And I didn't realize that until I went in to try and do it.
Right.
Huh.
So,
well, good info though.
Yeah. So just to understand a hero or a class, follow that starting line of watching the videos, doing the training ground, playing around one round with that character.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's how you grow is up to you. If you wish to just keep banging your head against the wall like me and you just keep going into matches and trying to get better, go for it. If you want to try and take advice from the people at the top, that's also a viable option. But I personally have found that learning a hero by playing the hero to be the best fit for me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I have a certain amount of, learn by doing. I would much rather learn by doing. I think that's actually proven statistically to work better for most people. And so it is very much I think there are tips, there are tricks that you can learn from other people, but until you've actually even just taking them into the practice arena and played around with them a little bit, you're not really going to understand a lot of the timing and the things that go into that. So I agree.
Well, we'll go ahead and move into the closeout. I'm dragging both of these dudes into the late night for them. I can see it on their faces. So we'll go ahead and move into closeout here. We have
Well,
news and
I
updates.
just don't want to talk too much. I don't want to make you upset.
Me?
I know you already got onto him for talking too much, so I mean,
Yeah, I know. Like, fuck.
It was a joke.
I got this fancy new mic. Everybody should want to hear my voice, and you're over here telling me I need to shut the hell up.
ain't
I
nobody
actually
wants to
didn't say
hear
that.
your voice, Beef. Slice. Ain't nobody wants to hear your voice, Slice.
Yeah,
Russ
yeah,
is the
yeah.
one that said to shut up. I just made a joke. Pointing that out. We'll go back to the recording and I'll prove it to you later.
That doesn't
That's
sound
fair.
like me. That doesn't sound like
Yeah,
me.
no. Russ
But-
and I don't tell each other to shut up.
As far as
Never.
news and updates goes, Helldivers 2, the devs have fixed the TR-117 armor issues that they were having. I think, if I remember correctly, that was an armor that they released and not everybody was able to claim it or something like that.
Mm.
They've fixed that issue.
That was a recent thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have fixed the issue, and they've asked for a little bit of patience to be like, hey, it took us a long time to get this issue fixed. Now we are
Mhm.
going to reissue it, but it might take us a second to get it to everybody.
Yeah.
So, but that's the big news on that front. Marvel Rivals Season 1 is dropped with 3 new maps, 2 new characters, a new season pass, and some hero fixes and rebalancing.
Oh, 3 new maps.
3 new maps, yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
I've
they've
only run
only-
into the one.
So they've only dropped the one new map.
Oh, okay.
So technically, it's also 4 new heroes. It's 4 new
Right.
heroes, not 2. And the season pass is longer than the season 0 was. And they said that this is the 10 tabs for the season pass is what we are to expect going forwards for full season. Essentially, season 0 was a half season for them to just, test the waters.
We'll get it out, and then yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the big news for Rivals. And that's pretty much all we have as far as our gaming news and updates. Our Astronaut of the Week, HumorousMatthew. Thank you for being a part of our community. We'd love to hear more from you. If you have a question, please put it in there. Thank you for being here. And then our Streamer of the Week, as picked by Mr. Native Raider, is Shafus. Shaafes. I don't know if you've played with him at all, Russ. Native said that he met him through raiding in Destiny and possibly throughout the Owl Sector.
If it was Destiny, I have no idea.
Okay. So Shafus, he's a pretty good streamer. I actually watched him for a couple hours yesterday or 2 days ago. And he's a pretty good dude. Like, he's chill. He plays his games, talks to his people that are in there. And I think he only had 20 viewers. And they were in there specifically because he was doing Marvel Rivals drops. And I didn't engage, but I was listening. I was watching and listening, and he's very engaging, even when people aren't engaging with him, which I find to be a very attractive quality in streamer. Somebody who can engage even when there's nobody there.
Unlike Beef just never engages.
Yeah. I don't stream. I'm not quick-witted enough to come back on that. I'm sorry, Russ.
That being
That's
said,
okay. It's getting late. I get it. I'm with you.
That being said, we will have Shafus' Twitch link in the show notes, as always, or in the show description, sorry. But, Russ, where can people find you in the social spaces of the internet?
I don't know, man. You can find me on Discord, Jackal7250. I'm around. Like, I exist. You can usually find me on Fud's Discord. That's where I'm most active. If you're trying to get in touch with me for that stuff, I have a Twitter or an X. It's drjex. That's JEX0725. But I don't know. I don't post anything. I'm really bad at social media, man. I'm really bad. I'm really, really bad. I'm hoping, when I've finished a couple of books, I'm now a published writer, that I can hire somebody to manage social media so I don't have to do it. I've already told Fudd, I'm like, if I become an author, right, a relatively well-known one, I'm hiring you to be my social media manager, and you can just handle that because I got no idea what I'm doing. I'm very bad at this. I enjoy being on people's podcasts. Thank you for having me. It's been great fun. I enjoy talking to people. I just don't enjoy talking to people over the internet unless it's Discord.
Yeah, that's a little bit more personal connection on Discord because you can do like we're doing here with face cam and feel like you're actually sitting in a room, sort of kind of with somebody.
I like personal connections with people. It's just the way I am.
What about you, Beef?
I like to personally connect with Beef all the time.
Ooh,
I would love to connect with you, Russ.
Bring it.
So, with that being said, you can find me over on the Power Podcast. I co-host that with Mr. Ranger here and Native Raider. You can find me on a number of episodes of AAP because I seem to be Ranger's go-to fill-in. Yeah.
He always wants to do it, and he's typically free around the same time I'm free. So
typically, yes. Today was a bit of a shit show, but it worked out. So anyway, yeah, you can find me over here. A couple episodes of Blueberry Lounge. Find me in a whole bunch of the different Discords. But yeah, those are the main places you can find me, though. Power Podcast, Astronaut Arcade Podcast. Everybody keeps giving me shit, telling me I need to start streaming. I doubt it. Maybe eventually I'll do it. We'll see.
If you want to see Russ do that for later. More, if you want to see him do that more, then you should start streaming. If you start streaming, Russ is going to get a monitor beside him so that he can point it towards you while you're in a chat together, and you can see yourself.
Yeah,
see him doing that.
All you see is just Beef's reaction to me just titillating him.
I'll just have Russ back here on a monitor. That way I can just watch Russ's face as he's fondling himself. Yeah, that sounds like a great time. But yeah, that's where you can find me at. I know I talked a little bit too much on today's episode, so I do apologize if I
it was a joke.
We couldn't even get a word in edgewise. You just wouldn't shut up. I don't know.
I know. I went on a lot of tangents today.
Man,
it's
so
just
scattered.
I know. It was wild.
You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.
Yeah. Thank you for having me again, as usual, Ranger. I appreciate it. I'm always here to help. Yeah, it was fun.
As for me, you guys can find me right here in the Astronaut Arcade Podcast, Astronaut Arcade Podcast Discord, Power World Podcast, and the Power World Podcast Discord. You can also find me in FUD's Discord and in the Space Mafia Discord and on an episode of DPS, Dudes Playing Stuff. You can also find me in the Blueberry Lounge Discord and on an episode of Blueberry Lounge. And you can also find me on a smattering of other Discords throughout our community and never on Twitch. I have a Twitch. I don't use it. I should, but I don't. So, sorry.
But you could if you wanted to. Yeah.
I almost forgot to mention, you can also find myself, whenever FUD gets it out, because we know he hates editing. But whenever FUD gets the episode out, you can find myself and Native Raider on an episode of Just Some Gamers.
But not
formerly
me.
known as Just Some Guardians.
Somewhere else.
No, you're always there. You're just in La La Land.
Somewhere else.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
But thank you to you guys for listening. I know this is a longer one, and there's a lot of back and forth, and probably a lot of things that you don't actually care to hear about. But
that's right.
Thank you for listening and sticking it out with us. Thank you for listening to the Astronaut Arcade Podcast, where we can take one small step for man and a giant leap for gamerkind.
Ooh, that's a nice
Pluto
outro.
Is a planet.